Today, we're going to dive into the invisible battle that's happening all around us, the fight to keep our super connected world of smart devices from, well, completely falling apart. We're going to look at how these networks are built, how they get broken, and most importantly, how we can actually defend them.
You know, it sounds like something straight out of a movie, right? But for security experts, this is a very real question. Because if you think about it, that massive web of sensors, cameras, and controls running a smart city, or heck, even just your smart home, it's a lot like a real city. It's complex, it's efficient, but man, can it be fragile.
So, if we want to protect these digital cities, we've got to start by looking at their blueprints. We need to find those hidden flaws in the architecture that make them so vulnerable in the first place.
At its core, every single IoT network can be drawn out like a map, what we call a graph. Think of it just like a city map. The nodes, which we call V, those are your devices. They're like the buildings. And the edges, E, are the communication links, the roads connecting everything. It's a simple idea, but it applies to everything, from a huge smart campus to the gadgets in your living room.
And that brings us to the single most important metric for survival, resilience. Look, it's not about stopping every little failure. That's impossible. It's about how well the network can take a punch and keep its most important parts talking to each other. You could ask, how much of the city is still standing after a big earthquake? That, right there, is resilience.
And you know what? We can actually put a number on it with a pretty simple formula. R is the size of the largest connected component. That's just the biggest group of devices that can still reach each other, divided by the total number of devices you started with. So, a resilience of 1, that's perfect, 100% strength. But a score of 0.5, that means half your network has been cut off, isolated from the rest.
Okay, so we've got the blueprint. Now, let's put on our black hats for a minute. If you wanted to bring this digital city to its knees, how would you do it? Well, it turns out not all attacks are created equal.
On one hand, you have a random attack. This is kind of like random potholes showing up on city streets. It's annoying, sure, and things definitely slow down, but for the most part, traffic can still find a way through. But a targeted attack? Oh, that is a whole different ballgame. That's like taking out the city's main bridge. The damage is instant, it's catastrophic, and the whole network just collapses.
So the big question is, how do attackers find that main bridge? They don't guess. They use something called centrality metrics to mathematically find the weakest points. Degree centrality spots the most popular hubs. Between this centrality finds those critical bridges that connect different neighborhoods. And closeness centrality finds the fastest messengers in the whole system. For anyone getting into security, understanding these is like a detective learning how a thief cases a house. It's all about calculation.
And here's the proof of just how devastating this can be. Look at the before picture. We've got a model of a smart campus, everything's connected, and our resilience meter is at a perfect 1.0. Now look at after. An attacker takes out just one single central server, and bam, the network shatters. Resilience plummets to 0.375. In an instant, more than 60% of the campus is cut off.
Okay, knowing the attacker's playbook is one thing, but how do we actually build a city that can survive these kinds of hits? Let's get into some of the smarter defense strategies that are being developed.
When it comes to defense, there are really two main philosophies. First, there's fusion defense. This is the brute force way. You just ask every single device, hey, are you okay? It's thorough, but it's really slow. Then there's sequential defense, which is way smarter. Instead of asking everyone, it's like going straight to the city's emergency managers, the most important nodes. By just checking in with a few key players, it can figure out what's going on much, much faster.
Now here's another really powerful defense, especially for networks where things are always moving, like connected cars. It's called a location certificate. Here's how it works. A car says, hey, I'm right here. Then nearby witnesses, maybe some roadside sensors, check that claim using signals like GPS or RSSI, which is just a fancy way of saying they check how strong the car's signal is to prove it's close. If it all checks out, they issue a tamper-proof digital certificate that proves the car is exactly where it says it is.
So why is that such a big deal? Because it shuts down one of the sneakiest and most dangerous types of attacks out there, this Sybil attack. This is where one bad guy pretends to be hundreds of different cars to create a phantom traffic jam, or maybe creates thousands of fake accounts to rig an online poll. With location certificates, that's impossible. You can't be in 100 places at once, and each of your fake identities would need a real, physically verified location. Game over. So far, we've been talking about defending the network's structure. Protecting the bridges. But what if the attack isn't structural at all? What if it's more like a digital plague? Let's shift gears and look at how malware can spread through our smart city. In the IoT world, malware basically spreads in two ways. First, there's proximity-based infection. Think of this like the common cold. It spreads through close contact, using stuff like Bluetooth. Then you've got infrastructure-based infection. This is way scarier. It's like a contaminated water supply. The malware gets into the main Wi-Fi or cellular network and can hit tons of devices all at once. And of course, the worst ones are hybrid attacks that use both.
And to track this spread, experts use the exact same models that epidemiologists use for human diseases. You might have heard of the SIR model. The whole network starts out as susceptible. Then a few devices get infected and start spreading it. Finally, as we patch and update devices, they move into the recovered state, and now they're immune. It's literally a race between how fast the infection spreads and how fast we can recover.
And we can look at this digital plague from two different perspectives. We can use individual models to zoom way in, kind of like a doctor studying a single patient to see how the illness progresses and how they recover. Or we can use network models like SIR to zoom way out and get the big picture, tracking the epidemic across the entire population. You absolutely need both views to figure out a cure.
Okay, we've been talking about these big, abstract networks. But let's be real. These vulnerabilities aren't just in some far-off smart city. They are right inside our own homes. So let's bring this fight down to the level of your smart thermostat and your security camera.
Take a look at this chart. It breaks down the most common ways attackers get into a smart home. They could go after a server or the communication lines, but look at that biggest slice, control devices. That's right. The most common way for an attacker to get in is through the very device that's probably in your pocket right now. Your own smartphone is often the weakest link in the entire chain.
And this is exactly how security analysts think about the problem. They use a risk matrix. They take an attack vector, like a compromised phone, then they figure out the potential impact, which, as you can see, could be total control over your entire home. And then they map out a way to stop it, a mitigation strategy. Like app whitelisting, which basically says only pre-approved, trusted apps are allowed to talk to your home.
And believe me, this isn't just theory. Here's a description of a real-world attack. A malicious app, maybe it was a free game you downloaded, quietly uses the Android messaging system in the background to send commands to your smart home. It could be turning lights on and off to mess with you, or it could be unlocking your doors, all without you having a clue. Which really brings us to a final crucial question. We fill our homes with all this amazing technology because it promises us comfort and convenience. But as we've just seen, that convenience can have some serious hidden risks. So the next time you plug in a new smart device, it's worth taking a second to ask yourself, is this system just designed for my comfort, or was it also designed for my trust?